Hello, we can't hear anything on the Zoom.
My apologies, I had it muted. I think y'all can hear us now.
Yeah, so could you recap what you were explaining? Sorry.
Yep, sorry. So I did share my screen as well.
Yep.
The screen that's up right now, essentially there's nothing happening from the water for the first 8 feet of height. There will be a set of steps going in there, which are permitted by ordinance. Once you get up the hill a ways, that's where the excavation in this project is actually occurring. There'll be a 10-foot by 10-foot flat area essentially that will still be vegetated. And then everything else kind of in that half moon will be sloped. The other thing we were talking about is whether it is in the process of a house being built, and the highest part of the lot is closest to the lake. For the most part, it all slopes back to the road from there, except for the immediate drop off to the lake. You wouldn't be able to put in a beach, plus it's going to be 8 feet higher than the lake anyway. It would have to still be vegetated, and that's kind of the idea on the slope. So the sides will be cut back a little bit, gentle the slope.
How far back does the landing areas from the water line?
The 10 by 10 section
Yes.
from the water line?
Yeah,
It's on an angle 8 feet up from the water level to there. It's 8
so
feet.
I can't picture the slope there. So you say 8 feet up, is that?
2 feet back, 3 feet back.
Well, 3 feet, 3 feet back, yeah, it's steep.
Okay, thank you.
I can't walk down that. But you'd asked about that vegetation and whatever was there from 100 years ago or whenever that lake was built, nobody's touched that stuff.
No questions. I have one more.
Yes, sir, Mr. Pettit.
And that's the 10 by 10 landing. And we all can see on the drawing that it's a funnel to the lake. And what my concerns are, and it's been done many times before with steps, and that is to make the back part of that 10 by 10 lower than the front part. And if you put anything, we all know in Wisconsin, anything that's level, if the water can't go here and it can't go there, it goes there, if it's level. So what has been done, and I'd like to propose this to you, that be sloped negatively.
Back
It's been
toward the
done,
house?
yeah, and they wash rock and they put like filtration or a system to let the water go to the sides of that landing instead of over toward the lake.
And I don't, just to recap, because I want to make sure he understands, I don't think Bob is talking about the whole 40-foot area.
No,
It's that flat 10 by 10. If you just, even
slope it back
1 degree back,
1 inch.
so it doesn't, the water, it's not just creating a funnel all the way down.
Are there gonna be slots between them boards?
There's no boards. This is all just,
It's what natural?
it's soil and grass.
Oh, okay.
Yep, no landing, no, he called it a landing, but there's no
Gotcha.
wood or deck or anything like that.
Flat, just area.
Yeah. So, and then put in like maybe a French drain where you'd have some rocks to collect that water.
There's gotta be a name for that, I don't know.
That's kind of what it is a French drain. You just, at the back edge of it, the water would collect in there and,
You dig a hole and put in a yard of washed stone,
Right.
and the same thing on the other side, so the water goes to the side instead of.
I can wash the.
that way it has a chance to soak in instead of just a straight channel to the lake.
So the area right behind the 10 by 10 flattish area.
I would say
lined
right-
with rock.
Like right, that line between your
Okay,
white and gray, or green, I mean.
yep, so as stuff comes down and kind of gets caught by that rock and doesn't roof over the top without.
That's what you were saying, right? So you can request that, or you can make it a condition.
I don't know. If it's not requested, it'll make it, I'll propose it to be a condition, you know,
You'd have to make that motion to add it as a condition. But
at that time or now.
no, all right, anytime. Well, sorry, you.
Public hearing, open.
We can wait till after the public hearing. And that, just remember it and then make your motion. It probably can go in any order, but.
I make a motion now, so I don't forget. That'd be one of the conditions.
To attach that as a condition that there's a French drain collection area added. You got that? That's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, no.
Okay.
Any public hearing?
At this time, we'll open the hearing to public comments. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor? Please state your name, address, and you are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the request? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the request? Is there anybody wishing to speak against the request? Anybody wishing to speak against the request? Third and final time, anybody wishing to speak against the request? At this time, we'll close the public hearing and the board will deliberate.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, so we would need a motion to approve or deny.
And the condition's already attached, so if you approve it, that's automatic.
I make a motion, we approve this application.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Can we get a voice vote on this, please? Yeah, okay.
Sure. Jansen,
Yes.
Eggersdorf,
Yes.
Pankowski.
Yes,
Bula,
Yes.
and Caldwell. Okay, granted.
motion passed.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just lost everything. Let's try that again. The next application is for Carl and Laura DeBryan. It's a variance request under section 396-60A7 and 396-9A of the Adams County Shoreline Wetland and Habitat Protection Ordinance to allow a reduced setback to the ordinary high water mark on property in the Park Government Lot 2, Parcel E, Section 34, Town 15 North, Range 7 East. The address is 366 Fur Drive in the town of Jackson. As far as correspondence goes, we did receive the letter, so the town of Jackson did not object, because it was no closer than the current house. They voted on that on July 9th. And then I did receive the letter from the DNR. Dear board members, the DNR has received a notice, kind of background information. The plans do not indicate the setback of the existing structure is. The aerial photo on the county GIS shows that the existing structure is within 22 feet of the edge of water in 2020 and within 50 feet of the edge of water in 2015, according to information from county zoning staff. The proposed addition is 61 feet from the ordinary high water mark, but that is based on a previous determination and no recent ordinary high water mark determination has been made. It is not possible for the applicant to show that they meet the variance standards without a scale plan, and the board may want to dismiss or table the current application until a scale plan with the ordinary high water mark clearly marked can be provided. The ordinary high water mark and existing setback are a critical part of a setback variance application. Under the county ordinance, a lateral expansion of 200 square feet can be allowed without a variance, provided that the expansion is no closer to the existing structure and is more than 35 feet from the ordinary high water mark. With the plans provided, it is impossible to make the determination as to whether a variance is even needed, assuming that the proposed expansion is 61 feet from the ordinary high water mark to meet the existing structure. This expansion can be made with very minor modifications and then without a variance. With an existing setback of 61 feet, the applicant is proposing 224 square foot expansion within 75 feet. The plan could be modified to reduce the expansion to only 200 square feet by moving the addition back 1.5 feet. Reducing the width, etc., and then a variance may not be needed. Per the information provided by the applicant, the department does not believe the applicant can demonstrate the meeting the three statutory criteria for granting a variance. Snyder, you guys all read this letter, right?
Yeah.
So they just talk about some Supreme Court cases, and then the letter does talk about unique physical limitations. The applicant must demonstrate that unique physical limitations or special conditions of the property exist that prevent compliance. According to the GIS information, this parcel is actually larger than other nearby lots. This parcel is not unique. No harm to public interest. The applicant must demonstrate the variance will not result in harm or be contrary to public interest. The board must consider the impacts of the proposed projects on the, without clear measurements, it is possible to review the impacts of the project. If the addition is within 35 feet of the ordinary high water mark, can be a significant detriment to the public interest. The 35-foot buffer should be all vegetation and with a mowed viewing and access corridor and stairs. If the addition is within the 75-foot setback area, it can also have a detriment to the public interest. Unnecessary hardship. The applicant must demonstrate that the variance is not, if the variance is not granted, an unnecessary hardship exists. The board must consider the property as a whole rather than just a portion of the property. There is no information included in the application that shows that an addition to the existing structure cannot be built beyond the 75-foot setback. According to the plans, the addition will be 73 feet from the center line of Fur Road. If the current structure is 61 feet from the area high water mark, moving the addition 14 feet away from the lake would not be a hardship. Please note that these comments are in regards to shoreline zoning regulations only. And that's from Kathy Kramaz. And I do have some comments to make. Unfortunately, she gave you inaccurate information in her letter. As far as no recent ordinary high water mark determination has been made, it is unnecessary. The ordinary high water mark has not changed since August of 2018. So whether the current GIS and what she's referring to, on our mapping, it shows so there's one right in the middle is, right? That's yours, right?
Yes.
This one in the middle is the applicant's home. This photo was taken in 2020 after all the spring flooding or all the flooding that August. It has been my determination and as well as the DNRs that the ordinary high water mark did not change when that flooding occurred. The unfortunate part is we're now going on 6 years of it. But it is going back to the ordinary high water mark, and that is still the number I use, and the DNR said it was okay to use. Is where the water was on August 18th. No, yeah, August 20th of 2018. The closest representation to that is this. And you can see a substantial difference in where the water level is. If you just use the green line on the north edge there, you can see what they actually had was a beach, extends to the north of that green line, and then here's what it was in 2020. So you can see about a 40-foot difference. How she came up with the number 50 feet from the edge of water, I'm not sure, because from this corner to this corner is 61. Or sorry, this corner to where the water is on this photo, which is what I'm using as the ordinary high water mark. So it is, the number we're going off of is 61, and the other part of the application is no closer than the existing house.
So Dustin, when those houses were made, what was the distance? Which watermark were they using when they built this home?
Could not tell you. I don't even know if ordinary high water mark was a thing. When was your home built? Do you remember?
In the 1945 approximately.
I doubt at that time there was any setbacks even. So I don't think they used the ordinary high water mark.
But you know, you look at this drawing, the existing home is closer to the water than the addition. Am I reading this right? Just look at the picture.
Which drawing are you?
Right here, this existing.
Oh, is that accurate?
That's true.
Okay, the applicants are behind you. I don't know if they want to add more. I wanted to just clear up a couple of things in that letter first. But yeah, so Carl, you want to?
I would like to say two things. This project was approved by the board in 2018, but we never went through with the project. And, all this was handled by Jason Strady, so this is, for me, this is all new. And the other thing I'd like to say is we do have a basement now, and even when the lake exploded, we never had water in our basement.
So the picture that you had up there with the ice,
Oh.
do they do a drawdown on Jordan Lake?
No, that's. Sorry, I'll answer.
You know what I'm saying?
This is what the lake is normally for a long time.
Okay,
Since probably mid 60s. And it was actually a lot lower. You could almost walk across the lake at one point
okay.
in one spot. At the end of August of 2018, we had, what was it, 12 inches of rain in 16 hours.
Mhm.
That's when all the flooding happened in Big Flats. Well, Jordan Lake, Parker Lake, and there's a few others down there. This lake went from normal level 5 foot higher, almost overnight. Now it's about it's come back about 2 feet down now, maybe a little bit more. The unfortunate part, there's no outlet. So just because it goes up for a couple of years doesn't change the ordinary high water mark.
Right.
But this is pretty normal.
Okay. And that's 60 feet at that point?
61, yeah.
Okay.
Cool, any questions?
No.
Linda? Robert?
Yeah. Wherever, I don't see any figures or measurements at this point that says anything about 75 feet. It all seems to be less than 75 feet.
Which is why they're here, is asking for a variance to be 61 instead of 75.
That's established. And my next question is, why does this new addition extend further into that 75 feet?
No, it's
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
it's further back than the.
If you-
existing.
The red part that's outlined, the lake is at the top there. And it's,
I got that, yeah.
Well, the existing building, Robert, is closer to the water than the addition.
I think it's only a difference of maybe a footer.
It's about 4 feet.
Oh, 4 foot
back.
difference,
It's
okay.
about 4 feet back than
The
the.
water's there, I see no numbers on this drawing, you know.
Well, the way they drew it, it's further back.
60 feet, it doesn't say 75 feet.
75 is what the ordinance requires. Nobody said 75. What I'm saying is the existing house is 61. That's my official measurement determination. They're saying this is actually gonna be 4 feet further back from that.
Is that the house or is that a deck
What?
It's an addition, Bob.
that's sticking out
Oh, on
Existing.
the existing part?
there? Yeah.
The little bump out, I think is what he's asking, Carl.
It is part of the house,
That's part of the house, right.
That's part of the house.
yes.
I think, I don't know if you can get,
That's
yeah,
kinda
you can kind of
hard
see it there.
To tell, you know, if it doesn't say it's a house, I don't know.
You can kind of see where it sticks out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is part of the house.
Are there any further questions? If not, we'll open it up to public hearing.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing to those in favor. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the request? Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the request? Anybody wishing to speak against the request? Anybody wishing to speak against the request? Third and final time, anybody wishing to speak against the request? At this time, we will close the public hearing and the board will deliberate.
I think this addition is 4 feet further away from the lake. I would move to approve that. We have a motion in a second. Again, I'd like voice vote on it.
Okay, Jansen, Eggersdorf? Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Caldwell?
Yes.
Yes, 4? Okay.
motion carried. Thank you.
Did you ask Bob?
You said yes, and Linda said yes before.
Oh,
even
I never
got
heard
to
you call his name. Okay. All right. You don't have to stay for the rest unless you have nothing better to do on a Wednesday afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, the next application is for Jessica Koch and Chad Parkhurst, variance request under section 405-38D-4A of the Adams County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to allow a reduced setback to a state road on property located in part southeast quarter, northwest quarter, section 8, town 14 north, range 6 east. The address is 3746 Highway 13, town of Del Prairie. The applicant is here, and I did receive a little correspondence. I don't know if you guys got it in time. It was from Monday. I had a conversation with the DOT. Question they had, the right of way there is 50 feet each way, the center line.
I think I emailed it to all of you, but I didn't make a copy and put it in their packets.
Okay.
It was emailed.
So let me try to read this in the correct order. All right, so this is from Kelly Nicholas with the DOT. Good afternoon. We received the hearing notice attached below. Is there any additional information or drawing you can share with us regarding the reduced setback? We did send on basically the whole packet. And her response was, I looked at our right-of-way of plat, and we have 50 feet right-of-way of each side of the center line of Highway 13. There's also a vision triangle, which I don't believe they'll touch. It looks like they only have about 14 to 15 feet on the north end of the house to the right-of-way line, and maybe 19 to 20 feet on the south end of their house. If I'm reading their application correctly, they are only planning to extend out 8 feet from the house on the north end and 16 feet total on the south end. As long as they meet county requirements and not extend into the right-of-way, we have no concerns. My response to her was, thanks for the info. I have always informed the board that they're not authorized to grant a variance to go into any road right-of-way or onto a neighbor's property, so we will make sure that is well in this case. So the moral of the story on that one is the DOT didn't object to it. And the town of Del Prairie did not object to the request. The deck's only 8 feet closer than the existing house. That was already too close. That was at their July 9th meeting, 2024. That's all I got for correspondence. The applicant is here. If you have any questions for him, he did answer the 3 questions that have been talked about before with the hardship, physical limitations, and harm to public interest. That would have been in the original packets. The request is for 57.5 feet from the center of the road. The required setback is 110? Wow. 110, complete. And then, or 60 feet from the right of way, whichever is greater. The existing house is already substantially closer. Let me see if I can.
So where's the porch going on that?
Right. Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can do a nice, maybe little drawing. Starts, correct me if I'm wrong, comes out kind of like that. Sorry about the little marks in there, but I can't do.
What is the setback from the property line?
It has to be 10 foot.
So it's more than 10 feet that the porch would be?
Yep.
Okay.
I think the lines on the specific lines on this are, they can be off by up to 50 feet, but that is something we make sure of during the process. And she talked in the DOT letter, she did talk about that vision triangle, and that's why it's kind of an odd shaped property. That's what this is for the road intersection, which he's not in. And the other thing that he did mention to me while we were talking about all this, and you may want to talk about, I guess this is a one you have in your packets, a much more blown up. One of the reasons for the road setback is definitely a safety issue. In this case, there are two fairly mature trees kind of on both corners that somebody's going to hit something that's going to be those trees first. And the house is already too close, but with that, I'll turn it over to board or applicant if he wants to add anything. Or
So the setback from the road center of the 13 is 50 feet?
110.
110 feet?
Yep.
Right.
Or 50 feet from this line, the right-of-way line, whichever is greater.
I don't understand 110.
So when we do roads, and this is on all roads,
Yeah,
you have to measure from the center of the pavement back 110,
okay,
which takes him to the backside of his house.
okay,
The other measurement we have to do is from the right-of-way line
okay,
and go back 60 feet.
all right,
Now, almost always those take you to the same spot.
all right,
That's how they're designed. But on the chance that the road was not put in the middle of the right-of-way, that's when those numbers
okay.
changed. But as you can see, the entire house is, so there's really no place he could do anything. I mean, I guess in the very, very back, and it'd be right pushing the line.
Dave, you have any questions or any more? Robert?
Yeah, I'm reading the note here. I put a deck on it. Is that already there at this point, or?
It is. He built it. Did not realize he needed permits. I stopped and talked to him, and that's how this process started.
I'm reading further here. To look better, that's an I want, so it has nothing to do with the law and the ordinances. And safety situations or conditions. You want to be safer by putting a deck on there. What about people in the cars? You know, there's public concern too, other than your own, by having a deck sticking out even further. So I have concerns about that. And being too close to the road is, I don't know if it's a self-imposed hardship. Somebody bought the house, and whoever bought it, that's gonna be their problem.
You can respond. I mean, right? You're okay. Yeah.
Am I to understand that you have this in with the DOT, or DOT does not object to this?
Correct. Yeah. And you guys have received that email. The DOT, and the short answer there is the DOT doesn't have a setback to a state highway. you're not gonna find anything in the DOT regulations saying you have to be so far from their right of way. Their regulation is you can't be in the right.
And I don't know if this question applies, but let's say car does hit that thing,
Mhm.
okay? Is there a liability on the homeowner because it's so close to the road? Or is that not an issue here with us?
Who approved it?
I certainly would say it's not the county that approved it. Because again, there is no state regulation that you have to be that far away. That's something we choose to do, but we certainly have the right to, I mean, the Board of Adjustment has the right to reduce that setback. As far as, I guess in my 25 years experience, I've never seen it where somebody can go after.
I just, maybe it
No.
doesn't apply to this committee.
Right. I mean, it's an interesting point. But where a house is, I mean, you even think about like in town, you have houses maybe built right up and somebody drives into a building.
Call it drive-through.
I know in Oxford, we've had people drive in the front door of a bar. I mean, right through. That's not the property owner's issue. The building was there. That's on the driver.
Yes, we'll open it up to public hearing.
All right, at this time, we'll open up to public hearing. Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this request? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this request? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this request? Is there anybody wishing to speak against this request? Is there anybody wishing to speak against this request? Third and final time, is there anybody wishing to speak against this request? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and the board will deliberate.
Any other questions?
I have just a couple. This doesn't affect the utility right away, right?
Nope, because generally those utility right of ways would be,
Closer to the road. They'd be within this.
they'd be out here.
Okay. And then it says this is B1. Is there a business there too? No. Okay.
No,
And then just out of my curiosity, not trying to make anything happen to your home, but if anything happened to this home, would this give the okay for somebody to rebuild again too close to the highway?
yes. And that's true with the existing,
Footprint.
any structure within the county that doesn't meet a setback. At any time, it doesn't matter if something happens here or not. You can tear it down, rebuild in the exact same footprint, same size, same location, everything. So they could just decide, well, this is old, we're gonna make it new. Completely wipe it out and start it over and use the same exact footprint.
And any penalty for building without a permit?
The fees will be, generally we double the fees and we'll do that on the zoning permit. I'm not going to on the building permit because I think there might be some changes that have to be made. I've also taken the approach that he has spent $400 to come before the board. Kind of look at that as a penalty as well. No sense in adding injury to insults or insult to injury. But
Do we
yes,
need a motion to approve or?
I've got something to say first.
Yes, sir.
There's the DOT or something says it's okay. So does the government run our county or do we run our county? Is the question I have. Also is the safety factor. There's also another factor of precedent, which shouldn't take place, but it will. There'll be a precedent set here. Those are things I'm concerned about.
There's no liability on our part. The committee, no, okay.
well, with 25 years of experience, at some point, you have to take my expertise in the matter that there isn't.
So basically, what he's asking for is a setback from the center of the road to be, you know, to be reduced to what it should be. But if he's, or I'm looking at it, if he's 10 feet back from his property line, is that correct?
Actually, it's a little more than that. I think it was
Yeah,
like
so
14.
it's 14 feet. I mean, to me, I'm thinking, why is he even having to ask for a variance? You know what I mean? I understand
Sure.
there's the DOT side of it too.
Well, it's not even the DOT side of it. The 10-foot, so every side of your property has a different setback.
Right,
So on the sides, it's 10 foot.
okay, in the front?
It's 110 from the center of the road or 50 foot, or excuse me, 60 foot from that property line.
Yeah.
So really the front setback is 60 feet
But
from
the
that
house-
property.
House doesn't even meet that.
Correct. And that house, I mean, how old is, yeah, I mean, that house is as old as the last applicant.
That's dependent on the type of highway that you're talking about, right?
Exactly. So now you come down here to Gem Drive, which is a town road, Class C highway. The setback is 30 feet from the right of way,
Yeah.
63 from the center or 30 feet. So and county road is in the middle. So the type of road does matter. This is a state highway, which is our largest setback of anything. And that's 110 from the center. From the center. But in this case, the other way to look at it is the front property line setback is actually supposed to be 60.
Okay. No further questions, motion to approve or deny.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is it on you?
All right.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Now you gotta work with our office as far as getting the rest of the permits in place. Which we started, but now we gotta pick it back up, so. All right,
I had to work last night.
oh,
I've been up since noon yesterday.
well, now you can go to bed.
Thank you, guys.
The next application is for M&S Adventures 2 LLC. This is a variance request under section 294-3B6 of the Adams County Sewers and Sewage Disposal Ordinance, requesting limited use of an approved pouch design tank component as a holding tank to be allowed with an approved Adams County limited holding tank use permit on property located in the northwest quarter, southwest quarter, section 20, town 17 north, range 5 east, lot 4, CSM 4397. The address is 2262 County Road Z in the town of Quincy. The town,
She never got that to me. Did you talk to her about that?
what?
I don't think she ever told me. Oh, yeah. There we go.
I was just looking for anything else. The town at their meeting on July 31st, voted to not object to the request, but the town board did express concerns regarding the property usage. Or the use of the property. And I don't think I received any other correspondence. The purpose of this hearing, the public notice kind of explains it, but not really. Anytime you put in a new septic system that's not replacing an existing one, the ordinance prohibits the use of a holding tank as that system. So you'd have to go with a mound or a conventional septic system, because the building that they're putting up never had a septic, or the building didn't exist. There was no septic system. Now they're building a building. They need to put in a septic system with it. They're asking to use a holding tank instead of a septic system. Some of you on the board may remember the last, a couple times this year, it's a very similar request to, I think it was a brewery up in Rome. Because of high strength waste, they have part of it going into a holding tank, part of it going into a septic system. This is along the same lines, other than it does have to do with the high strength waste. It's more due to the limitation on space for a septic system and limitation on, or limited use. I believe the applicant, I don't know if there's any,
I'm just a neighbor.
What is the, it says recreational building, what is the usage of it?
That's a great question. And it bothers me. I didn't realize, I thought you were part of the group. The applicant is not here, and I don't see any applicant or representative of the applicant here. And I think those are questions that need to be.
I understand with the meat thing, the meat processing, why we permitted that, would be nice to know what the use is.
What was explained to me, not by the applicant, but by the applicant's septic contractor. So whether he has all the information or not, I don't know. There's a current motel buildings out there, and this building would be a centralized spot, maybe a kitchen in there or whatever, and then everybody can go back to their individual rooms. They're calling it a recreational building, kind of a gathering spot, communal area. That's probably the most accurate. Beyond that, there's been questions raised from the town about, is it actually getting rented out as a motel or some other type use? And I don't think the town was satisfied with the answer they received when it comes to, or the actual terms of the holding tank part of it. They didn't necessarily have a concern about that, but they had a concern about the bigger project. When it comes time for the bigger project, they have to comply with zoning regulations. So I don't know if the board maybe wants to table. It certainly would be appropriate to table it until somebody shows up to answer questions.
Yeah, I would move the table until we find out what the actual use is of the facility.
And we'll notify them, and well, if you guys pass that motion.
Can I ask some questions first? Like, is there an existing system there now?
That serves the motel, yes.
And they want to connect to that?
No.
They just want a separate?
Standalone just for this building, because the septic that's sized for the motel is sized for the motel. You can't really add anything to it.
This proposal they have is not going to connect or affect the existing?
Nope. Yeah.
The motel consists of how many?
I do not know.
And then don't want to put in another septic system.
I think part of it is they don't want to, but I think part of it is they're pretty limited on room for where, because you start talking a drain field. It'd be a very tight fit, I believe.
It says seasonal use, there's not enough space for septic system.
Right.
Is that correct?
I would agree with that, yes.
And this is zoned,
Well, there's something else.
It's under. Yeah, but it's R1 under Tom Quincy.
Right.
You have to have new construction, old system, new system. You can't put a holding tank on a new house unless your soil's determined to be bad.
No. You can't. I mean, the ordinance. So you're right. There's existing buildings out there. They have their septic systems. They're putting up a new building. They need a new septic system. At that point, the ordinance says you can't use a holding tank.
And they can't.
Right. Doesn't matter about the soils.
That's the soil.
No, it doesn't matter about the soils. You cannot use a holding tank for new construction, according to the ordinance. They came before the board to ask for a variance to that request. As an example, if the septic system that serves the motel now fails, they could replace that entire septic system with a holding tank. Because it's a replacement system. So we're not gonna, and the idea behind that is you're on a small lake lot, you had an old septic system, that fails, and you can't get a new septic system in. And we say you can't use a holding tank, well, you almost have to tear your house down. That's not okay. So you have that provision. It can be used as a replacement system. But in this case, it's considered a new septic because it's a new building. You can't use a holding tank unless this board says otherwise.
Is 2,000 gallons is a big boat.
That's what you would put in usually for a 3-bedroom. I mean, for a if you're doing it for a 3-bedroom house, it would be a 2,000.
And then you never have to pump it, how often, is there set rules on that,
As it fills up.
as it fills up? Okay. You
Um,
know, I have, and I could be all wet in this, okay? You know, they have mound systems, they have septic systems, whatever. And what I see out there is a lot of mound systems. And my preference would be a holding tank to a mound system. That's my personal opinion.
and
Because there's mound systems for a reason.
right. It's usually because of higher
I
groundwater.
think a tank is safer than a mound system.
And beyond that,
Somebody tell me if I'm right or wrong, I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
I mean, mounds are good. I don't know if I'd say one's better than the other. If you were
Here's my thing.
Yeah.
You know, Northern Bay had, if they weren't able to bring that septic into Friendship, which Friendship has.
Right.
They're just over half capacity. Okay, they were gonna have to put all these tanks in.
well, they would have probably ended up doing septic systems.
Huh?
They would have done actual septic systems, not holding.
I was told when we went out for our, economic
Yeah.
development tour that they were gonna put holding tanks in.
That wouldn't have been an
It
option.
was cheaper to put the pipeline in. It was cheaper
Oh.
to do that. To put the pipeline into Friendship than it was to do what they were gonna do. And they would have had to have pumped it all the time too. The way it got presented to me at the time, okay? And I've always said, our county was asleep when that happened, because our county should have ran a pipeline, should have partnered up with them, and did whatever for that lake out there. And we wouldn't have all these mound systems and have it piped in to Friendship, or do something. Because with I'm talking economic development now.
Right.
For economic development, they want tourism, they want this, they want that. This is my speech all the time. Is that motels and stuff want to hook up to something. So,
Isn't a mound system based on soil conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually that means the groundwater's higher. So
there's a whole new subdivision out there, and all of them are mound systems, all of them.
you're talking Northern Bay.
Huh?
You're talking Northern Bay?
Nope, I'm talking about in Quincy.
Oh, so Bob did make a motion to table it, and some of the questions can get answered by the applicant next month.
Second that motion.
We asked one quick question. This gentleman here, are you a neighbor of this?
I have a lot that's next to it, across the street.
So can you ask him if he, reason, does he oppose it, is he okay with it, or?
I would
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question.
I would strongly suggest waiting until the applicant is here.
I
Yeah.
agree. So we have a motion and a second to table this next meeting, so. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Okay, but I prefer this over most.
You can discuss that next meeting.
All right.
Right. So we have public hearing closed. Was there any correspondence?
Nope.
Okay.
And do
Next meeting date.
we have any applicants besides the one that just got tabled? Oh,
I've
okay.
got 3 or 4. We got a busy September.
All right. Next meeting should be September 4th. Same time, same place.
Is that the Wednesday after Labor Day, right? Is that okay
Yeah.
with everybody? September 4th. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed. Okay.
Does anybody ever oppose that?
Thank you all. Have a nice Labor Day.